With the price of everything increasing, people are moving to places that they may not have gone to before, such as rural communities. A lot of times I hear people get freaked out about rural communities because they're on well and septic. A well system and a septic system is nothing to be scared of, and it's actually a very easy system to deal with and maintain as long as you use your head. Today, I want to give you 5 things to make sure that you're paying attention to and a little bit of advice on what to do when you're actually having a house on your own private sewer system. That way you can avoid any of those expensive horror stories that you always hear people talking about. The first thing that we got to get off the table is you have to pump your septic system. You're going to hear a lot of people, especially older people, tell you you don't need to pump your system. They're wrong. Point blank. No ifs, ands, or buts. You have to pump your septic system. You're going to see people in the comments that'll say, I've lived here for X amount of years, whether that's 30 years, 15 years, 60 years, and I've never had a problem. These people are lucky. A lot of times you're going to see people where they don't pump it for 20 years, and guess what? Now you got a $30,000 bill or a $60,000 bill. Pumping a septic system is essentially like changing the oil in your car. You do it every few years, and you'll be fine. Don't change your oil in your car every few years. Do it as far as your manufacturer tells you to do it. In our area, generally pumping out a septic system is going to be about $300 to $400 depending on who you go with and how large your system is. From there, now you've got a good baseline to do everything else. So the first thing is pump your tank. The second thing that we're going to need to make sure you know is only human waste and toilet paper is the only thing that goes in there. If you're not putting in grease, feminine products, plastics, cigarette butts, you're going to be in a better position than somebody who's using those gosh darn flushable wipes. Flushable wipes cause a lot of problems for municipals as well as people with private septic systems. You might be wondering, well, why is this a big deal? A septic system is just a big concrete box. Everything goes into it and then boom, you're good to go. That's true. A septic tank is a large concrete box. However, you got to think about how is all that waste and that water getting to that concrete box? You're going to have conveyance lines, sewer lines. A lot of times on older houses, you're going to see that those sewer lines are made of cast iron. Sometimes you get systems that are made out of PVC. They're going to be smooth. But let's just say that you have a belly, a dip in the line. So the pipe should be having a slope so that way the water can transit through. But if you have a belly, guess what? That's a restriction point and you could potentially be getting yourself a clog. Generally, restriction points will occur on the date of installation. There are times that the restriction point can actually occur post-installation. Maybe you're driving a dump truck over top your sewer line. Maybe the soil settles in a weird way, and that's where you get the dip. Maybe the installer didn't do a very good job. Regardless, you need to make sure you're only putting in human waste and toilet paper. My opinion is that you can get away with using normal toilet paper. You don't have to go ahead and use the septic safe stuff that everybody always tells you to use, or one ply. You don't have to torture yourself. If you're going to pump it on a 2 to 3 year basis, you're not going to build up enough debris for that 2-ply to actually become a problem. If you're using a 5-year, 7-year pumping schedule, you might want to consider going to 1-ply so we have less debris getting into your tank, potentially clogging it up. Grease, same thing it does to our heart, is the same thing it's going to do to your piping. As it kind of cools down, it's going to solidify in the pipes. It can also solidify in the tank, which can cause a blockage as it goes into the inlet baffle. The inlet baffle is just a little shield that slows everything down, so when you flush that toilet, you're not disturbing all of the solids that have already separated out of the system. The third thing that you're going to want to consider is better access. Now, what do I mean by this? A lot of systems, especially older systems, would just be accessible by the lid on the tank, and usually most tanks will have between 2 and 3 lids, one in the front, middle, and back. If it's only a two lid system, it'll be one big one in the front, one big one in the back. These lids are so that way you can get to the tank, pump the tank, and if necessary, do any repairs. In our area, generally, systems before the 2010s would have just one single clean out, which is going to be that 6-inch pipe on the front of the tank. Modern systems will have a manhole riser, and this is what you should consider putting on your septic system if you don't have access or if all you have is that clean out. The manhole riser goes in the middle of the tank. The benefit of having the manhole riser in the middle of the tank is that you're going to be able to effectively clean the system way better. Using just the clean out, it's going to be on the front of the tank. Again, most tanks, they're a big concrete box. Generally, they're 8 foot by 4 foot or 10 foot by 5 foot, at least in our area. They're also rectangular, so if you have the lid on the front, you're going to have a really hard time getting the suction hose to the back of the tank to get the debris out of the system. Over time, that debris is going to build up, and then eventually it will work its way to the drain fields, which can cause a lot of problems. Usually, a septic system should last about 30 or 40 years. The people who take care of their system and pump it regularly are more likely to have a longer lasting system. Manhole risers usually are about $200 a foot to install. If you do it yourself, it's way cheaper, but most contractors, it'll put you somewhere in the $200 range per foot. Risers are worth every penny. You should 100% consider getting one installed. There are a variety of videos out there to show you how to install a riser if you want to do it yourself. Polylock is the brand that I prefer. I think it's the most accessible for a homeowner, and it's also not that hard to install, especially if you smack it with your lawnmower like people tend to do. All of Polylock's devices are interchangeable, so if you do smack the lid, okay, no big deal. You pay 40 bucks, you throw the old lid away, put the new lid on, you're good to go. You don't have to worry about going to a concrete plant, having a truck, or having a friend help you load that device. Everything can be shipped to you, and it's perfect. Number 4. Most counties, at least in our state, will have some kind of rebate program or some kind of incentive program for homeowners to pump their systems. So that way, 1, the system's getting checked, and 2, if the system's getting maintained, which can make the system last longer. Having a system that lasts longer means that the county's less likely to have to deal with complaints of surfacing sewage, health complaints, and the process of actually having to show up to inspect these installations. In our state, all the counties are going to have a hands-on approach to a septic system that's being installed. They're going to show up through the entirety of the process to make sure that it's getting done correctly, and you're not just throwing a pipe into the woods and saying, good luck everybody else. A lot of these programs will give you between $25 and $100 depending on the county. What I recommend is go to your local county health department website, just type in septic savers, septic program, septic whatever, or give them a call. A lot of the places, if you call them, they might be able to walk you through, here's what the program is, here's how you do it, here's how you get to it, and here's what the cost you can get from this program. It's worth every penny to look into. That brings us to number 5. The big thing is you got to know which contractors are you going to hire. Who are you going to call when you have a problem such as sewage backing up into your house? Not knowing who to call is where you're going to end up spending a lot more money than you had originally anticipated because you just went with the first person on Google, or maybe you went with the first person who answered their phone. That's not the best choice in a lot of circumstances. You want to make sure that what you're doing is actually researching whoever you're going to use as your contractor beforehand. Having the right contractors on call makes it to where when you do have a problem, it's much, much faster to get that problem rectified, because usually when septic systems start to have problems such as failure, you're going to have sewage in your yard or in your basement, and that's never fun. The good news is septic systems fail slowly, so usually you're going to be able to see this happening way before it actually gets to that point of being in your basement or at your surface in your backyard. When you get your system pumped, a lot of the pumpers are going to look to tell you, hey, here's what we've got going on. You've got toilet paper in places you shouldn't have toilet paper. You should consider further investigation, whether that's digging up the back of the tank, the distribution box, or even the drain fields. If your contractor tells you you've got a problem, investigate that problem. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad time. Hopefully you found these 5 very easy tips helpful for you, and hopefully you don't have any problems with your septic system. Make sure you maintain your system. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I try to get to them as fast as I can. Till next time, guys.